All right. In my first video, I want to explain some of the code that I've written. So here I go. I'm going to make this while loop bigger. And this is pretty simple. A counter is an integer value that I defined over here. int in Java is int for integer. And I defined counter, and counter2. Just defined it so you can use it later in the program. The while loop over here, pretty much what I said is while counter 1 does not equal 0, then it counts down. And then system out print line is pretty much just prints the console screen, so it prints the number. So it's counting down from 20. I defined up here, it's counting down from 20. And when it equals 0, it will quit the loop. Pretty simple. The do while loop. Do while, it simply means it will loop once, at least once, no matter what happens. So I use counter 2. So it adds to counter 2 and it prints counter 2, the value of counter 2. Actually, here it prints the value of counter 2, and this is just a string. It just prints counter to the console. And then on the end of it, you would say while counter, and then I said does not equal 100. Exclamation point equals means not equal in programming. So loop until it equals 100. And I made it start I made it start at 30. Counter 2 right now equals 30 on the top. So that's pretty easy. If statements. Right here, this is pretty Java specific here. It's just name2. I guess I should explain that, but name2 is checking for if the value equals in name2 if it's the same as in name3 string variable. If it is, then I'll say print they are equal. Else, if that first condition is not made, it'll say they are not equal. It's pretty simple. And I define that as I define those strings up here. String name1 equals Ryan. String name2 equals Royal. String name3 equals Royal. That's a test. So name2 equals Royal, name3 equals Royal. So you know in this code, name2 actually does contain name3, so it will print they are equal. Which in my first video, I didn't really show the console. I just kind of showed myself typing. Yep, let's return that. Then at the very end of this code, right here, bigger. Whoop. All right, so this pretty much is it's name1, so you can it gets user input. So name1 equals user input. In Java, I have an object like that is called from the scanner input.next line. So we'll take the next line of that input. And then here it prints the value. So since the new name is, it'll print the value of the new name. So to get user input in Java, we have to define it, but first we have to get it. So import Java util scanner. So it comes from this class, the util.scanner, Java util.scanner. So it imports that. And to actually define this, the input, we'll make it bigger. See, scanner, which is from here, scanner, input, which is the variable or object of scanner class. So I say equals new, so it's a new object from scanner, system input. So I'm getting input from it. So that's why I type in system in, and then I use that right here with that the input next line. You can also get integer value if you typed in I believe it's input next int. So you can also get like integer values, floats, and doubles from that as well. That's pretty basic, like how you would do it in Java. And personally, I kind of prefer C and C++, but Java's pretty easy in comparison. Java's pretty nifty. The only thing I really didn't like about this language is it kind of forces everything in a class, because I didn't explain exactly what this is. This is pretty much public class concept. It's a class, but I did not use object orientation to do this. I just used classic one line programming, the basic classic type of programming that doesn't involve that. But in Java, you kind of have no choice but to kind of understand it, or else you can't really code it. Another thing about Java, C++, C#, pretty many languages, you have to use curly brackets to define. Like there needs to be like an opening curly bracket and a closing one towards the end of your code. And those things will also be in if statements, while statements. Pretty much a lot of major statements in the programming languages will require this, but not all, because Python, you don't need to do that. But Python, you have to basically indent, and indentions will basically take the place of these brackets. But all throughout the code of Java, C, C++, Perl, JavaScript, you will find brackets. And of course, that bracket, the very end bracket, it actually doesn't go to this one. This one goes to that one. That one at the end actually goes to this one. And if you forget these brackets, it will give you an error. You'll get all types of weird errors if you forget those brackets. But this is just an explanation video about my first one. I'm planning on making another one that will try to explain more of these, mainly the object orientation in Java. Like right here, this main, it's a static class, like static right here. This pretty much, my memory can recall. That means that I believe there's like one version of it. You could use that, like if like instead of creating an object to the concept class, if I created like another method, then I could just call it, and it'll be like classical programming, and like C programming, regular C, not C++ minus object orientation. But it's preferred to use object orientation because you can put things in a class, define it, categorize things, and you can put data together. But if you weren't going to do that, you could use something like a structure that people use in C++, which is, well, you can use it in C++, but it's mainly used in C. And you can also put data together with structures. And when using structures or class, you can make linked lists, trees. You can make all types of cool things with it, but it's how you use it will define how it is. I personally prefer the object orientation way of doing things because I'm actually kind of working on a game project on my own. I'm doing it in C right now, mainly because I'm trying to learn Allegro, and I figure if I can just learn Allegro, just minus the other complicated parts, then it'll be much easier. Plus, Allegro is actually written in C, Allegro 5, so it kind of makes it easier. But I have dabbled with it using C++, and I'm planning on going back to that. Just kind of fun things that you can do with programming. This is just the basics, but in the end, you really would never want to make a program like this, just one line, just going all the way down like this. Actually, kind of reminds me of assembly a little bit, although I'm dabbling with assembly. but it does remind me a lot of it because you're just going straight in the line. But if you're going to use structured programming, you would use a lot of methods. Yeah, there's like, you can use a main method like this. In C++, it'd be int main, and C, it's same thing. And you would just use a bunch of methods to connect your program to make one big program through methods. Object orientation is very similar to the objects, kind of like in the scanner. Scanner, if I can find it. That's what it'd be like. If I could find it. All right here with the scanner, it'd be kind of like this. And you'll be doing that with your own classes, because you can create class objects the same way you can create the scanner thing. And you can do that in many other languages as well. But Java, I know, is used mainly in enterprise stuff. It's used in Android. It's used in a lot of things, actually. And what I love about it is you just code it once, it runs anywhere because the Java VM, that's why. But yeah, just a little touch up on that. Just a little touch up on that. Maybe later I'll explain kind of that, but for now, I'm just doing this because just the basics. And the first video, I was just sharing some things that I was learning in school, but I program a lot on my own anyway. So, yeah.